Welcome back. So now we are going to try and actually solve the not implemented exception that we created last lesson to create our test-driven development environment. Again, we start by making a failing test. It's now failing. Now we need to make it work so it's not failing anymore. And let's try and figure out how we can do that. Now, step one is going to be jumping into our product repository, because the actual production code right now just throws a not implemented exception, and that's what we're seeing down here in our method. Now, how do we fix this? Well, we're going to actually start by returning a new list right here. And in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to contact our context. Now notice I don't have access to the context. So in order to fix that, I need to just make a local variable right here for the context. So I just Alt-Enter, create local variable, and then I get this local reference right here I can use. So now we have the context available. Now you can't unit test this because it's a private variable. So in order to do that, you need to do a lot of magic. We don't want to do that. So we'll just keep it private like this, and we'll just kind of let the test-driven development force us into having this variable available like this. With this variable, what we can do is call products. And with products, what we can do is actually we can say select, just like you guys saw in the actual unit test right here. So I'll call select, and here I'll actually call the exact same thing like in the unit test. I'll say p.new product right here instead of a product entity, like we talked about last lesson. I want an ID, and the ID is going to come from pe.id. There we go. And I want the name to come from the pe.name. There we go. And now we have the product available right here. And right now it's an iQueryable. Notice it's not an iNumerable because the other part was built against an in-memory list. This is actually going to be built against a real in-memory database, a real database actually in the end. So it's an iQueryable instead, but we can call the same thing. We can still call toList, and then we're actually getting back a product right here. So it's the same thing we're doing, but notice what makes it really hard to do test-driven development right here without having like some kind of integration in our testing environment is that you have to call two methods, and none of these are actually set up in the DB context to be interfaces. So we have to kind of manually do a lot of work behind the scenes in order to do testing right here. So that's why I'm going to settle with just doing this basic integration testing right here, where I'm just doing in-memory integration testing to create this setup right here. So now we're actually going to return a list of products instead of returning an actual not implemented exception. So let's try and rerun our unit test and see if that solved our problem. And I think the answer is no, because there's one more thing we need to do actually in the unit test to make this work. So again, the unit test still fails. And if we have a look right here, it seems that we expected it to actually get a list of products right here with the products we kind of made as the expected result right here. But it returned an empty list. Now I know what my problem is. My problem is that I actually forgot to call save changes down here in the test. You still have to do that even though it's a test environment. I still have to explain that after I add the range of product entities right here, I need to actually save the changes for the fake context to kind of fake that I'm actually creating these rows in my table. So that's what I was missing. I was missing the save changes right here. That's one thing. Let's try and rerun the test again, because still the unit test won't work. We still have some issues in our unit test, but let's see what happens now. Look, this time it still fails, but notice it actually says the expected result is this list of products, and if you kind of relate these two to each other, they are exactly the same. So why doesn't the equal actually return to us that they are the same? Well, it's because we have to kind of add a small helper to our system right here, a way for us to kind of explain that we do an equal. We need to kind of do an equal for each of the individual project against each other. So we need to actually add a comparer right here. So I'll make a new comparer, and I'll just make a very simple one right here. It's called an I-equality comparer. So I'm just going to make one. Let's just make a new comparer right here. Again, this is probably something I would add inside a helper class somewhere. I'll just create this as a new small class down here in the unit test. So I'll make it a comparer right here, public class comparer. There we go. Now we have the comparer ready. Now the comparer is going to kind of use an I-equality comparer right here of the type product to kind of compare different products with each other. Now let's try and see if we can get some help here. Generate equality comparer, that's the one I'm going to pick from Writer. And now I'm just going to say okay, because we compare everything, and notice out of the box it just generates all the code for me in order to make such a comparer right here. And let's just have a look at what it actually is. It just equals two products. So kind of for us to be able to equal two products, we need to kind of have a look at a few things. First of all, are they equal, completely equal in memory? Then I return true. If one is something and the other is null, I return false. If they have the same type or different types, I'll return false. And then the final thing is I just return each individual field, and I also have a comparer that kind of references the hash code. So that's what a comparer is all about. And you can actually put these into your product class instead if you want to do that. Now, with this in place, so we can compare each of the individual products inside our list of products, we should now be golden right here. And let's try and rerun this. That was a lot of work in order to actually do these unit tests right here, but now we have a running unit test. It was again test driven because I kind of set all of this up, and actually right now I got on myself later on when people start actually working with this setup right here, we can just keep expanding this. Again, if you don't feel it makes sense to kind of unit test your outer layers, in this case the infrastructure, then it's up to you, but I'm going to do everything test driven this series right here, so that's why I'm trying to add these tests here as well. So that's it for this lesson. Next lesson we'll have some more fun. See you next time. Bye.